Hi, good afternoon. Today is the 14th of March 2020. As you can see, it's a very slow and lazy Saturday for all sorts of reason, and not that I'm complaining, far from it. In fact, I'm quite thankful that for now, um, this is what we have to contend with here in the province of Quezon, in the southern, we call our place the Southern Tagalog region. So on the eve of the community quarantine, the 14th of March 2020, Saturday, I must say that I was quite pleasantly surprised at Pure Gold when we were there yesterday. We bought a bit of a supply. Um, you know, it's not that we got carried away um, because of the impending quote unquote lockdown or quarantine or whatever the term is being used in Metro Manila. But it's going to be weekend and my daughter Lee will stay over. We share the same house, which it's just the two of us now. And plus the fact that we need extra, you know, it's a sort of a security blanket for all of us. We have to admit that nobody is exempted from the nerves, from being concerned about the immediate, um, the immediate emergency response. So although the consumers were early, the store clerk told me conversationally that they open at 8 o'clock a.m. The store hours, the people flocked as early as 8 o'clock and the people nonstop. But one good thing about it is I was quite expecting a pandemonium, mud rush, like the buildup of mass that will clog the traffic and that will prove to be impossible for parking the car. But as it turned out, we got in. Of course, the traffic slowed down. We had to wait our turn for the shoppers to get onto their car because they are done. And so we had to wait a while. But just the same, it was not as bad as the what I've seen on social media, the photos being posted. So I'm quite thankful for that. And there were people, but it's of comfortable size. And because of that, somewhat we could observe social distancing, mga isang 1 yard or 1 meter away from each other. So the size was comfortable. And from the produce section of Pure Gold, the stocks were being refilled and there were no empty shelves, no vacant slots, even at the hygiene and sanitation sections. While we were there, the baskets for checkout with other shoppers and consumers, they aren't, I wouldn't consider them panic buying because it's a big cart and then two carts at the most. So I guess we're still very fortunate here. So we went about our business and left immediately just as more consumers arrived. But this is a province. Maybe that's why, because the 7 o'clock news and the personal anecdotes from Metro Manila were not as fortunate. When I went to SM Lucena to pay bills that afternoon, Friday, yesterday, I didn't see a critical mass as well. There wasn't a build-up, and I was glad that the alcohol had been liberally sprayed on my hands and that my temperature was tested by thermal scanner. So that was quite good. That's comforting for me. So my work entails that I keep to my office for fast correspondence and preparations for the presentation of my resume and company profile. So I'm not out most days of the week. And then at the end of every workday, I'm exhausted. So the housekeeping has to be undertaken by yours truly. So keeping the house, the chores, and as well as the office work, they keep me occupied for quite some time now. Um, I used to despair and I looked forward to having a time out, a break from this kind of routine. How was I to know that it will be the kind of routine that can save lives? Diba? Parang, I'm quite thankful that God has prepared me, has conditioned me for um, the routine that would not put me as the among the high risk sector of the population of the workers. So I am very fortunate and I'm truly thankful. So incidentally, it's also the subject matter of family banters. As you know, as some of my followers know, I got married young, and I would joke about, whenever I introduce my daughters, oh, these are the daughters, and they only have one father. Well, anyway, it's true, and I'm so glad that we have a science now, based science, so that it's not just a punchline, it's not just a conversational piece back then, but it's going to be a thing of a certainty through science. And so I told them that I had asked my brother Jerry, he's the board member of the first district, that I said, all my funds have not arrived yet, so I borrowed emergency funds from your tito because we need to get some stocks. We've run out of food, and that's a big no nowadays. And so, they kid me a lot. Even though that's part of the, I guess, the unconditional love that they have, that even though they still have some misgivings about the kind of work that I do, still we've managed to get over some really sharp humps. JM told me, buti hindi sinabi ni Tito, kailan ka ba nagkapera? Translation, I never knew you to have lots and lots of money on your pocket. Because truly, this planting season had been prolonged for me. And there's a reason for that. So, diba, we reap what we sow. But as for me, the planting season had been riddled with so many challenges. So, it's kind of good-natured ribbing. Jokes are half meant. So I refrained whenever the banter hits home because it would be baseless to enter into arguments without basis or proof and without a calendar being set. At times, you can forego winning an argument just to keep the peace. And anyway, they are done. They are making fun at my expense. And most days, that's just fine by me. But guys, that's about to change. And it's going to change not because I want to exact revenge, but it's going to help them adjust to the reality, and it will help them so that their mind can grasp what is to be. They can say that, I can't get my head wrapped up on what you're trying to do here. So since the time that I made a formal assertion at our local government offices, which we refer to as LGU or local government unit, things have progressed, reaching a point I can talk about it. With respect to the sovereignty of national and local laws, and as a way to prioritize giving respect where it is due, I made a conscious effort not to bypass the office, in particular of Governor Danilo Suarez. Members of my family who are close to him would refer to him as, used to be Kong Dani. It's shortened for Congressman Dani. He used to be the representative or the congressman of the, was it 4th district? Yeah, 4th or 3rd district of Quezon. I don't know. Well, anyway, yeah, because the representative at the 4th district is our former sponsor, Congresswoman Helen Tan. And the first district, the congressman, the representative, is Congressman Mark Anverka. And for the second district now, it's who our governor used to be, Congressman J.J. Suarez, who used to be Governor J.J. Suarez. Well, anyway, I made a conscious effort not to bypass any local office. So that's the office of Governor Danny Suarez of the province of Quezon and office of Mayor Roderick Dondon Alcala of the city of Lucena, where I was born and is presently residing. I did this by giving them a chance, just like how I had given the previous administrations the opportunity to respond to the personal courtesy calls bearing the documents I was being issued. So from their standpoint, one of the Clarissa Talaga Garcias amongst the local citizens sharing the same name and probably having parallel citizenship, at least for myself, I have presented myself for proper identification. Um, I stated as a matter of fact and explained the purpose of my visit, the purpose of my call, and what the documents that I had presented as my credentials. I realized something after, after going through some moments of struggle about it. Who wants to share the credit, right? But you know, um, we have to live what we have to live with. I do not own the name Clarissa Talaga Garcia exclusively because I keep on encountering the widow namesake at every turn. So I don't know why she has not yet been introduced to me, and I did exert ways and means to be able to be introduced, diba? One thing for sure, you're I don't think any normal person will not be curious at the very least to meet your namesake. Like if your name is Juan Pedro Reyes and there's another Juan Pedro Reyes that keeps on being mistaken for you and you live in the same locality, wouldn't you want to meet him and his family? Wouldn't you want, aren't you going to get curious about the other similarities that you may have aside from the name? Diba? Probably, do you have the same kin, relatives? Are you coming from the same branch of the Talaga family, of the Garcia family? At the very least, you're going to be curious. And that's what I had been. That's why, nobody could stop me whenever I would ask questions about it because I was curious. That's not my personal circumstance. I was married at 19, and the man I married is the father of all my three daughters. No ifs, no buts about it. And that he's alive and that we're separated. That's why if there's another person, if there's another woman by the same name, and we are being confused with each other, I would wanna meet her and her family, diba? So that's what happened when I realized that I did not have an exclusive claim on that name. Well, I had to design a way for self-introduction to be effective. So it had begun that way. That sir, ma'am, you might have met or known or liked or even favored this other Clarissa Talaga Garcia. And although I am not her, I still make myself available for any comment, question, or reaction, or even notification about policy matters as I am engaged in a sort of case build-up about my own identification to be as distinctive from all other names and identities that are being attributed to me. So the transcript of our conversations will indicate that our LGUs are cognizant of my legal personality outside of our locality as it progresses. It wasn't as if one day, without prior notice and reports, they just happened. Actually, it had been a continuous progress report of how the government at other countries such as the US, the United States of America, Singapore, Malaysia, and other Asian region like Hong Kong is being made aware of the different Clarissa Talaga Garcia that we have in Lucena, and that the process of identification from amongst the other identification is being done via the law enforcement arm of respective countries. With that premise, with that as a form of a certainty that you should be careful who among the Clarissa Talaga Garcia, the next of kin and the representatives you are speaking with, you want to speak with, you want to do business with, because if I had been plagued with confusing identities, intentional or not, there is no reason why it will not bother your interest in my business, because it's happening. So how does one honor the debt to a brother that emergency COVID-19 had compelled me to do? If it had been any other time, I would have, there would be reservations, because one of the sensitive topics that we have is about funds. So I even hear that I might spend the money on something else. Yeah, according to Lee would regale us with talks like that, because they're all going to giggle about my reaction and about, hey mom, do you know, they're really my gossip, and they relish delivering those kind of notes to me. This is a valid concern because it is this money that I'm borrowing and the purpose for it had been expressed. So, I respect and acknowledge that probably if it's the other way around, I would have to, take the same position to be vigilant about where his money is being used and by whom. In the same way that now that my expenditures from here on will acquire official status, the source of funds here on will also go through the official channels. As the U.S. State Department goes through the documents that I sent through the U.S. Embassy, the direct communication that's open now is also paving the way whether the difficulties can be appreciated at the same way that it is being appreciated by the Department of Justice here in the Philippines, and whether the U.S. Justice Department will look at the factors of the case, because the personalities that are involved are US-based companies. From the exchanges of emails that I have turned over for evaluation, it would indicate that there had been a communication barrier, like what is this all about? I had to explain, like iTunes.com. I had to explain the process of being accredited as a content provider for my music. So I thought that I had asked permission, but as it turned out, given the line of questioning that I received, it was clear that I had taken liberty that I shouldn't have. So the process of making them aware of some details of my life that previously they were not part of, it's going to take conscious effort on my part, so that they would be as informed as those real people and real companies that I had done, that I had interacted with, that I had shared and worked on a project with. So now it's all come into the surface. After listening to the latest press conference around 2 o'clock, and the media briefing of the lead agencies on the quarantine preparation tomorrow of the National Capital Region, and it's a sense of finality hits me. This is it. The comments coming in about, I don't know how this kind of term will be taken by the millennia. We used to refer to the city dwellers as the Manilenia and the Manilenyo, as they probably refer to us as the Provinciano or Provinciana in the province. And we would refer to them as the Manileño and the Manilena because they live in Manila, in Metro Manila, and some of them really don't have provinces to go back home to, so they are really raised in Manila. They talk a certain way, like how the city dwellers talk. And so, listening to them, I was struck by, the sense of it's like surreal. It doesn't sink in yet, but it's trickling. It's getting there. We're getting there. Hopefully, it remains that way. And I must say that we need guidance as well from the realist and pessimist, as much as what the optimist may share to the conversation, and they would be music to our ears. Message of hope, but we also need to be reminded of what the pessimists and the realists are born with. So without sounding the alarm bell unduly, here are some quick facts. Many people complain that there are not enough test kits. Comparing our lot to other countries, that's a given. We still have economic challenges of our own, and we are not considered rich. So therefore, the presumption is, no, the complaints used to be that there were only available 2,000 kits for 100 million of Filipinos. Oh my God, it's so sad. That's quite alarming, and it can compel us to hit the panic button. 2,000 test kits for 100 million of population, diba? And so therefore, the presumption that after the first initial reaction of outrage, what I would suggest is for us to take that mindset. The presumption should be that we are not going to give each other the benefit of the doubt, because that can be fatal. Instead, let's not look at the person beside us as possible carrier without thinking that we ourselves can be the courier. That's assuming the worst. We are going to assume the worst, and because if we assume the worst and the bearer of good news come rescuing us from making a fool of ourselves, that can flood us with good feelings afterwards, not the other way around, feeling good about it, and then we get hit by the reality and the bad news, and it's the other way around. We're going to be pushed to a tailspin, and I don't even want to go there. So, assuming the worst, given that distribution of test kit to everyone is not possible, if we are being without the benefit of a confirmation, we are being asked to speculate. In the absence of a way to know truth for certain, we are being asked to contemplate and to speculate. So why not assume the worst, diba? Because the test kits are not the cure itself. It's just a confirmation. So if we go ahead and confirm to ourselves that we are potential courier, and then hopefully that's going to trigger our protective instinct towards our family, that we are more apt to listen word per word with regards to advisory of the authorities, and then apply them, personalize it, because we cannot expect them to personalize it to what it means to each household. We have to personalize the general guidelines that they're going to give. And then if there are really some troubling and stubborn questions that need to be answered by them, they will be left to make decisions based on those that we really cannot cope with. But if we allow some time for those words to sink in, given the certainty that we are not going to be tested, that we are assuming the worst, probably it can get us into proactive action, and that our ears are more open to what they're really saying and personalize them to where we are as far as our economic status, our realities are concerned, where we are, the population density, where our house is, where in order to reach our place of work, the population density that we will be part of, diba? So, yun pa lang, it's a big help to us if we are doing something about it. So a test kit is not a cure or a healing meds, and there's no vaccine yet. So for me, it's better that we preempt the actual contagion, and that we don't wait and we don't rely and we don't despair because we are going to work, diba, ourselves into a hype, into an outrage, when what we should be doing now is not add stress to a very stressful situation already. Usually we know what to do and we don't need instructions if we follow our instincts in taking care of our family. Usually when we are faced with a dilemma like a stringent budget, or there's an emergency situation and we're totally not prepared for it, and that we don't have cash, that which is a source of security, we do something about it. Guys, 14 days, yun lang yung kailangan nating itawid. Hora de peligro. Yun yung pinaka, a way for us to realistically neutralize the potential distraction in the form of, diba? Kung nakita nyo lang kung paano nagkaroon ng treatment ang mga survivor, they needed so much help. And if we are going to tax our health system, tayo rin po ang kawawa. So we share the same space we call home. So let us do what we can to make sure na makatawid tayo lahat. Kasi hindi lang din naman, it should be a source of comfort to you that even though you're the one right now na nakasalang, but the effect is, if that measure fails, it will not just be you who will be casualties. Kami din. So we are also stakeholders of what you're going through, of the success rate of the measure that's going to be put in place. So we are one with you and we want to pray for you, because it's truly, truly frightening to contemplate what will happen if that measure is not even, is not even a good measure. Words escape me now. So, yun lang po. Maraming salamat po. And this is yours truly, Claire sa Talaga.